Baldur's Gate 3. We all heard about it. A game of the year nonetheless, by some metrics, even twice. I love it just as much as other players, but unlike other players, I do have some experience with Dungeons and Dragons, both as a player and as a master. My collection isn't that big, but I do have some cool stuff. All the 5th edition basic books, a homemade dice tray, and of course, a bunch of plastic crack rocks themselves, as well as a bunch of sheets from discontinued campaigns and a Dungeon Master screen finagled from other game supplement. Just look at all this crap. I have a very special relationships with video games. I started playing them way back then, when I was around 3 years old. I even remember my very first game. It was a racing game called Midtown Madness 2, or how it was translated by Fargus, Ветер в Харю 2. And I've been playing video games ever since. But you see, at one point of my life, I switched from playing single player to multiplayer games. Me and my friends usually went to some internet cafe and we played stuff together. A custom map for Warcraft 3 called Dota All Stars. Then we switched to Dota 2, we played Counter-Strike and World of Tanks. Then we started getting our own PCs and we continued playing all this multiplayer crap. Unlike for many people, these games wasn't a way to escape reality for us. It was just a way to be together with friends whenever we wanted. As I think about it now, that's maybe why we never picked up any MMOs. We were more outgoing bunch. For fuck's sake, we used fake student IDs to buy beer and hookahs at different bars when we were 16. It was normal for us to go booze after school on Fridays. Welcome to Ukraine, I guess. So why am I talking about that? It's easy. It's to show that the game has to be either outstanding in principle or specially to me in some way, for me to go and play it. And if you say that I am crusted asshole who don't want anything new, I would retort that for my close friends, I am playing the most non-competitive single-player games. Usually all of them are made by small teams. It's games like Noita, Art of Rally, both parts of The Risk of Rain, and of course Balatro. Of course there are some more, but I don't want to make the list too big. Actually, I want to make a vid on every game from the list, maybe someday. I am talking all of this because Baldur's Gate 3 is the first big game in almost a decade that made me feel things. The last one was Breath of the Wild, pirated, on a Wii U emulator on PC. After that, of course, I bought a Nintendo Switch and a copy of Breath of the Wild, but nonetheless. So, Baldur's Gate 3. Right now, I'm on my second playthrough. The first one, I played duo, together with my best friend, whom I know since we were like 3 years old. After we completed first act, in about 50 hours, we had this fun talk. How Baldur's Gate 3 do not want anything from you. You don't have this feeling of needing to do something. You do not need to log in. You do not need to play 5 games to collect a reward. It doesn't advertise you nothing, be it a paid DLC or microtransaction type of deal. Nothing. Null. Zero. You just come in and play at your own pace. Game also do not pigeonholes you into a certain way of playing. It has rarely seen today freedom. And I'm not talking about current AAA type of freedom. You know, where your whole choice is whichever base you clear first and which second. On our second playthrough, we didn't make a single quest in the first town, because it was decided that we want to off every single NPC there. And you can do it. And the game even acknowledges it. Somehow, this game actually feels like a PC version of Dungeons and Dragons. There is almost infinite amount of ways things can go, from being a talking pacifist, who only knocks out people if it gets to fight, to a bloodthirsty party who kills anyone who has more than 3 lines of dialogue. It's funny how we literally fight every single encounter and then decide should or shouldn't we reload based on how many experience we got. But now, I want to rant a little bit about the game. Larian, for fuck's sake, why the rope isn't working? You see, in Dungeons and Dragons, the rope is literally one of the most useful things a player can get his hands on. Climb up, climb down, tie somebody up. A great tool to play with goblins and to hang children. Have you ever dragged someone through a spike growth? Try to tie a victim up and drag him through one, back and forth. Of course, before that you should state to your DM that it's all non-lethal. Oh, by the way, Patty was considering themselves as lawful good. I guess it's not a war crime if we had fun. Although, as a player, I'm not that better. Just remembered how I tried to deep fry a bandit head to intimidate others. But my party didn't bought my reasoning. You know, that he is dead, so he doesn't need it anymore? But that's what you get when your character is a mess peddler in local Hogwarts. Also, on the point of difference between Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D. Why do Tavern Brawler feat is so broken? Like, what the fuck? It's good in D&D, but it's like 1/4 of the strength from BG3. In BG3, it makes your hands literally the best weapon in the game. And for some reason, it stacks with throwing weapons. Combine this crap with Legendary Spear and then ask yourself, who would win? An Archdevil? One of the rulers of Hell? A guy who literally has 666 health points? Or a dwarf who throws his spear 10 times a turn? Bro didn't last it for 2 full turns. Okay, in terms of stuff that I don't like, there's one more thing. Critical fails doesn't have any visible consequences. Of course, I understand that it can be frustrating, so I suggest to make it toggleable. Like a switch, low crit fail consequences. You know we have karmic dice setting, so why not? What it would do? You miss an attack, you drop your weapon, or stumble and fall in random direction. You hit yourself, or something like that. Usually in D&D, the most memorable stuff is the most egregious fails you can have. I cannot tell you about a fight that went well, but boy, I can tell a story about a guy who tried to attack, crit failed, and threw his blade out of the window. Then he jumped out himself, picked up his sword, and ran back into the fight, just to throw his weapon out of the window again. Long story short, he did this whole scene 3 times in a row. Of course, enemies gonna be subjected to the same rules. Also, I want stuff that negate difficult terrain out of this game. Basically, you get these boots that allow you to ignore any difficult terrain at the beginning of the game, and then you keep using them until the end. There are no reason not to use them, and you kinda throw out half of the game tactics. I just kinda wish for a harder and more whimsical official mod for online play that is not an honor mod. But I guess we have mods for that. Otherwise, I think the game is perfect. Yes, it does have some rough patches, like FPS in second and third acts, buggy pathfinding of throwable projectiles, and visibly cutted content. But in comparison with other big games from the last decade, I consider it a near perfect game. I hope to see the next Larian game before we all die in flames of the nuclear annihilation. The same I wish to you too. Now then, subscribe, leave a like, and until next time.
Unlock. Сдох.
Чё, блядь, ты чё, сука? Сука.
Все, наигрались.
What the fuck?